Hello and welcome to Town Talk. I'm your host, Rose Highland-Sharpe. This very inspirational program is brought to you by Highland Communications for storytelling, edutainment, music, and much more. Call at 910-528-0718. Stay tuned for the January 6th Vigil, a day of remembrance and action, sponsored by the Moore County NAACP, Olinda Watkins-McSurely, President. You'll see various members of the Moore County NAACP giving presentations, being a part, and others from other organizations held at the downtown park in Southern Pines, North Carolina. A time of unity and coming together. The January 6th Vigil, recorded by yours truly, the Reverend Rose Highland-Sharpe, with Town Talk TV and the Rose Highland-Sharpe Gospel Program, serving you through my YouTube channel. That's Rose Highland-Sharpe YouTube channel, the Spectrum Cable 3, WYBE TV, Southern Pines, North Carolina. Enjoy.
Someone that has a negative vibe, and if you're trying to make it, they only push you aside. They really don't have nowhere to go. Ask them where they're going, they don't know. But we won't let nothing hold us back. We're gonna put our
attack, front to back, in this thing called rap. Singing like a double rhyme double on a heavenly level. Bang the bass, turn up the treble. Classical mind, day and night all the time. 714, wise to mind. Maniac, radiac, winning the game. I'm the lyrical.
Hey! You better play it, girl. Hey, sweetie, how you doing? Good to see you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. All those who are from Raleigh and Chapel Hill, Durham, wherever you come from, we want to thank you so much for coming out. My name is Olinda Watkins-McSurely, and I am the president of Moore County NAACP. Again, we want to welcome you, but we want to encourage everyone to place the COVID safety, keep distance. Make sure you're covering your nose, your mask is on, and be kind to one and another. Can we all do that today?
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You know, there's going to be a lot of actions that we're going to ask you to do. And for one thing, just prepare to have your phone out. And we're going to be asking you to, on this day of remembrance of the insurrection on December in Washington, D.C., we got good information for you to take back to home and also to your friends. So right now, I'm going to turn this program over to Bob Howell, and then we got a great team. So we're going to have our prayer, please. Thank you. I got a lot of people helping me out back here. So we're going to have our opening prayer by Dennis McCracken.
These are troubled times. We are gathered here not in commemoration, but in lamentation. With all its hopeful expectations, this vigil is a lament for the scars that the events of a year ago today have had on the national psyche. In the years since, we have heard calls for armed uprising and have heard national politicians openly speak of secession. Neutral political analysts are writing in worried tones about the possibility of civil war. These are troubled times. We have heard politicians, local, state, and national, who are so afraid of the idea of equality that they would try to redefine the word justice. We have heard politicians, local, state, and national, who are striving to revise history to remove mention of past racially biased behavior, and who would preserve their claim to racial superiority by forbidding discussion of social justice in the public schools. These are troubled times. We have heard politicians, local, state, and national, who are willing to destroy faith in our elections because they see it as the surest path to victory, and winning is more important than democracy. These are troubled times. But we are here to turn the boat around, to point the moral compass in the direction of equality and democracy, and those go hand in hand. The 19th century Unitarian preacher, Theodore Parker, said, "Democracy means not, I am as good as you are, but you are as good as I am." That says that equality is not something that you earn or claim. It is something that we as a community bestow on each other. And equality is a critical component of democracy. If you are here because this is your one day to change the world, disappointment awaits. Today we have a vigil. Tomorrow and into the future we must remain vigilant. Change, when it happens, will be incremental. The struggle will be long and will require the best that exists in each and every one of us. May the spirit of love, the light of reason, and the staff of courage that dwells in each of us lift us up and guide us as together we navigate these troubled and troubling waters. May it be so.
Amen. Amen.
As you've heard, this is a day of remembrance and action. The remembrance and our vigil will be divided into those two segments. The remembrance is primarily a recitation of part of the timeline of events on January 6th and leading up to that day, followed by a memorial for some of those who died on that day, and then a presentation of some of the actions that we can take in order to ensure that such a thing does not happen in our country again. Thank you so much for being here today.
Amen.
One year after the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, Moore County is sending the message that voters should decide the outcome of elections, not unruly mobs or politicians with agendas. This gathering is one of more than 337 events that are taking place across the country, including at the U.S. Capitol. The events of January 6th, 2021 constitute a violent and deadly attack against all Americans, against our country, our democracy, and our freedom as voters to choose the leaders that represent us so that we have a government of, by, and for the people. Tragically, a faction of those elected officials turned their backs on America by inciting armed right-wing militants to attack our Capitol, and then tried to block an investigation to cover up their role in this deadly violence.
So, on this January 6th, exactly 1 year later, Americans across race, place, party, and background are holding vigils to affirm this principle. In the United States, the voters decide the outcome of elections. The promise of democracy is not a partisan issue, but a calling that unites us as Americans. To prevent this kind of attack from happening again, both the physical assault on the Capitol building and the political attempt to undermine a legitimate election, our elected leaders must pass urgent voting rights legislation that will protect our country from the anti-democratic forces who are continuing attempts to destroy it. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us today. The timeline of events that led to the January 6th insurrection actually began months before that day. We bring you now a brief review of the steps that led up to a dangerous attack on our seat of government, the ultimate certification of the true election results, and the need to remain vigilant.
Tuesday, September 29th, 2020. During the presidential debate, the former president says, "Proud Boys, stand back and stand by." Saturday, November the 7th. 4 days after the election, major news media call Pennsylvania for Biden, putting him above the required 270 electoral votes to be named president-elect. Monday, November the 9th, Oath Keepers member Jessica Watkins sends text messages inviting people to the Oath Keepers basic training in Ohio. One message says, "I need you in fighting fit by inauguration." Saturday, November 14th, over 10,000 people gather in Freedom Plaza for the Million MAGA March in support of the former president's election fraud claims, including the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, the 3%ers. The former president circles Freedom Plaza in his motorcade, and that evening he praises his supporters who fought against counter-protesters.
Saturday, December 12th, pro-Trump rallies in Washington, D.C. attract thousands of Trump supporters protesting the election results. Podcaster David Harris says that if there were a civil war, we're the ones with all the guns. Monday, December 14th, Joe Biden wins the Electoral College vote, 306 to 232. Wednesday, December 6th, the National Council of the 3%ers original issues a statement pledging, "We will stand ready and are standing by to answer the call from our president should the need arise that we, the people, are needed to take back our country from the pure evil that is conspiring to steal our country away from the American people." Sunday, December 27th, in a phone call with the former president, Department of Justice officials state DOJ can't and won't snap its fingers and change the outcome of the election. The former president says, just say that the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman.
Saturday, January 2nd, 2021. 13 U.S. senators, including Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley, along with 100 Republican members of the House, vowed to object to the election certification. Sunday, January 3rd, Trump orders recently appointed Secretary of Defense Christopher Miller to do whatever was necessary to protect the demonstrators on January 6th. An internal Capitol Police intelligence report warns that enraged protesters flanked by white supremacists and extreme militia groups are likely to arrive in Washington armed for battle and targeting Congress on January 6th. Tuesday, January 5th, D.C. National Guard Commanding Major General William Walker receives new orders from Secretary of the Army Ryan McCarthy, stating that he must seek approval from McCarthy and Defense Secretary Miller before preparing to respond to a civil disturbance. Previously, he had authority to respond without first seeking permission.
Wednesday, January 6th, 3 a.m. Buses chartered by the More Republican Women's Club, chaperoned by a U.S. military PSYOPs officer, and carrying about 100 passengers, depart from the Southern Pines train station for Washington, D.C. 8:17 a.m., President Trump's tweets allegations of vote fraud. States want to correct their votes, which they now know were based on irregularities and fraud, plus corrupt processes never received legislative approval. All Mike Pence has to do is send them back to the states, and we will win. Do it, Mike. This is a time for extreme courage. 10:50 a.m. at Trump's Save American rally at Ellipse, Rudy Giuliani calls for combat. 10 minutes later, a Proud Boys contingent leaves the rally and marches toward the Capitol building. 12 noon, Trump begins his more than 1 hour speech. When thousands heard his exhortations, after this, we're going to walk down and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down to the Capitol and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. 12:28 p.m., a Federal Protective Service officer reports 10,000 to 15,000 people moving towards the Capitol down Pennsylvania, Constitution, and Madison Avenues. 12:55 p.m., Vice President Pence writes, I do not have authority to decide which electoral votes to accept or reject. Then he joins House and Senate members in the large House chamber prepared to carry out his constitutional task of accepting the certified election results.
January 6, 1:10 p.m. Following Trump's speech, hundreds of breach mob members arrive at the foot of the Capitol steps. Within seconds, the mob rushes Capitol Police before they could secure the Capitol doors. A second mob runs to the side of the rotunda, aided by inside accomplices who let down ropes to breach a second front. 1:26 p.m. U.S. Capitol Police evacuates several buildings in the Capitol complex and issue a lockdown order. Internal security threat, move inside office, lock doors, seek cover, and remain silent. 1:45 p.m. Trapped in the Capitol, Representative Elaine Laurie of Virginia tweets that supporters of the presidents are trying to force their way into the Capitol, and I can hear what sounds like multiple gunshots. 1:51 p.m. Democrats leaders Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer and Chuck Schumer called Maryland Governor Larry Hogan. Representative Hoyer tells Governor Hogan that the leaders have been spirited off to an undisclosed bunker and the Capitol Police are overwhelmed. Hogan tells Hoyer he is trying to send the Maryland National Guard, but is being denied by the Department of Defense. The same is true for DC Mayor Muriel Bowser.
"2 p.m. Returning to the White House, Trump spends much of the afternoon in his private dining room off the Oval Office, watching scenes of the violence on television. 2:11 p.m. The mob outside the Capitol is joined by a second column of trained attackers, with inside accomplices helping them scale a vertical wall and enter through open windows. 2:22 p.m. Vice President Pence is escorted from the chamber as the mob chants threats to kill him. 2:24 p.m. From the White House, Trump tweets, "Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect the country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones which they were asked to previously certify. USA demands the truth." 2:38 p.m. Trump tweets, "Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful."
(2:38 to 3:03 p.m.) Reports of several murderous attacks surface, with members of the mob violently assaulting police. Respiratory hoods are issued for fire chemical protection. "Shots fired" is texted by Tennessee Republican Congressman Tim Burchett. 3:13 p.m. Trump tweets, "I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you." 3:34 p.m. CBS reports that a member of the mob is in critical condition after being shot in the neck. 3:51 p.m. Washington, D.C. National Guard leaders get permission to send their troops the few blocks that separated their jurisdiction from the Capitol grounds. Permission follows for the Maryland National Guard at 4:04 p.m. These reinforcements had been poised to intervene for hours. 4:04 p.m. By this time, 10 Capitol Police officers have been beaten, and several later died because of what appears to have been an intentional delay in releasing nearby reinforcements before Acting Secretary of Defense Miller finally released his hold on them.
(4:17 p.m.) Trump issues a video of himself reading a message to the mob. Quote, "I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. So go home. We love you. You're very special. I know how you feel, but go home and go in peace." Unquote. 5:00 p.m. The D.C. reinforcements restore order. House and Senate leadership decide to clear their larger chamber and proceed with Congress's certification and Pence's affirmation of the Electoral College results. However, several Republicans continue to insist that Trump had won the election using procedural maneuvers that keep representatives working through the night and into Thursday morning. Thursday morning, January 7th, 3:24 a.m., the United States Congress votes to certify the results of the Electoral College, and VP Pence affirms that result, paving the way for Joseph Biden to be inaugurated as the 46th President of the United States on January 20th, 2021.
We set up a memorial today to my left to honor the fallen of January 6th. I hope you will participate in an exercise at the end of this program to remember those fallen, no matter which side they were on. January 6th, 2022, it's the one-year interval since the January 6th riot on the Capitol grounds. Family members and law enforcement have provided numerous details on the 5 people who died in an attempted insurrection against the United States, including a Capitol police officer. Some early reports were inaccurate, but we have sought to provide truthful accounts of how they came to be at the Capitol and how they died. We find it appropriate to remember these 5 Americans today, victims of a tragic sequence of events that we hope never to witness again. The first casualty was Kevin Greason, age 55, from northern Alabama. He suffered a heart attack at 2:05 p.m., somewhere on the Capitol grounds, just after the mob removed the last barricade on the east side. He was described by his wife as a wonderful father and husband who enjoyed life and was not a violent man. Though his rhetoric after the 2020 election had turned increasingly menacing, Mr. Greason suffered a heart attack while on the phone to his wife in Alabama. At 2:23, Officer Brian Sicknick, age 42, originally from New Jersey, was repeatedly pepper sprayed in the face while defending the West Wing Capitol entrance. After that assault, he washed his eyes and face, shook it off, and continued working that day. Officer Sicknick minimized his injuries when speaking to his family, but was hospitalized the next day and died after suffering 2 strokes. At 2:44, Ashley Babbitt, age 35, an Air Force veteran from Spring Valley, California, attempted to enter the Speaker's lobby adjacent to the House chamber, where 60 to 80 House members and staffers were holed up for protection. Despite repeated warnings, Miss Babbitt attempted to climb through a broken window. She died shortly after being shot in the shoulder by Capitol Police Lieutenant Michael Byrd. Until that day, he had not previously discharged his weapon in 28 years on the force. The 4th victim, Roseanne Boyland, age 34, of Kennesaw, Georgia. At 4:46, she died on the Capitol grounds at the tunnel entrance after she collapsed from an amphetamine overdose. Initial reports were that she was trampled to death in the melee, but were not supported by the medical examiner. Her family had advised her against taking this trip. Only recently radicalized, Miss Boylan had never previously expressed any interest in politics and voted only for the first time in 2020. Benjamin Phillips, age 50, a computer programmer who lived near Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania, where I happen to be from, that area. He drove a van of supporters to President Trump's rally that day, some from his home, others from stops in Harrisburg and York, Pennsylvania. Described as a large, jovial, outgoing man, he had founded a website called Trumparoo. Although the exact sequence remains unclear, he died of a stroke that day in the local hospital. There will remain doubters of what happened on that terrible day. I, for one, am proud to rebut that iteration for the reality I watched on my TV for days on end. As a psychologist, I knew it was stressful to watch, that maybe I shouldn't watch, but I couldn't turn away. I am so happy that you too didn't turn away. And I hope you remain engaged, like the future of our democracy depends on it. I believe it does. Thank you for listening.
At this moment, we'll take a moment of silence while our musicians play a song.
By the ones who circle round to tend these fires, we shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
At this moment, some of you all have collected The white roses are either carnation, and you have heard Tina go through the list of the ones that was that we're remembering today. So I'm gonna ask Tina what she's gonna do is to ask you to bring the flags, those who have the flags, to bring those flags and lay them on this table. Am I correct, Tina? At this moment, please come and lay your flags and your flower. And while you all doing that, we're gonna ask music, if you can find us some music. We appreciate everyone participating.
Gotta change around here. Gotta change around here. Can't go on this way. Things gotta change around here. Say it loud, say it clear. Things gonna change around here. Fingers on the trigger around here. Fingers on the trigger around here. Bullets flying, mothers crying. We gotta change around here. Get it straight. Be sure that you hear. Things gonna change around here. What good is freedom if we haven't learned to be free? What good is freedom if we haven't learned to be free? Day after day, year after year, we gotta change around here. X is the letter, blue is the color, 1 is the number, now is the time. So a change around here, gotta change around here. Say it loud, say it clear, we gotta change around here. Gotta change around here. Gotta change around here. Yeah. Gotta change around here. Say it loud, say it clear. We gotta change around here.
Brother, what's up? It's just a big party, man. Damn, brother, like, stop right
That was beautiful. Just thank you. Thank you. You know, that was so meaningful. Today is definitely a day of remembrance, but now it is also a time of action, as we call for each and every one of you to take action. If we expect our democracy to succeed, we must do our part, and not only to vote, but understand what we must do to protect our right to vote. Federal voting rights protections cannot wait and are vital to saving the soul of our democracy. Every day, states are introducing restrictive voting legislation. Last year, 19 states enacted 33 laws that limit voting rights, and more are expected this year. We must protect and enforce voting rights for all Americans. Yes.
Federal legislation must be passed to ensure these rights. The League of Women Voters, among others, the League of Women Voters of Moore County, among others, wholeheartedly supports these voting rights acts and are awaiting their passage in the Senate. And they include the Protecting Our Democracy Act. So America's founders created three co-equal branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial, and they did it for a reason. It was to keep any branch of the government from becoming too powerful and to provide a system of checks and balances. The Protect Our Democracy Act would protect against presidential abuses of power. It would restore the integrity of our democratic institutions and ensure transparency and accountability from the president. This historic pro-democracy act creates and strengthens guardrails to prevent the abuse of presidential power and to restore fundamental checks and balances in our government. The last time Congress passed significant reform to protect our democracy was after the Watergate scandal. Congress must reassert its role as a co-equal branch of government. This legislation has passed in the House, and now it's up to the Senate to move it forward. We ask you to contact Senators Burr and Tillis and demand their support for this act.
The Freedom to Vote Act creates a national standard to protect and expand the right to vote. It decreases the influence of money in politics and curbs partisan gerrymandering. Voters should determine who will represent us. Politicians should not decide who their voters are. Automatic voter registration, early voting, online, and same-day registration provisions in this bill work together to provide Americans with more options to participate in our democracy. This bill also creates standards for upholding voter rolls and authorizes voter registration at new citizen naturalization ceremonies. The Freedom to Vote Act is a bill Americans need to make the promise of democracy real for all of us. We again urge you to contact Senators Burr and Tillis and demand their support.
The D.C. Statehood Act. The House has passed the Washington, D.C. Admissions Act, which would give over 700,000 people living in, I'm just going to wait. Okay, let's start again. D.C. statehood. The House has passed the Washington, D.C. Admission Act, which would give over 700,000 people living in D.C. voting representation in the House and Senate. The people of D.C. have no voice right now in Congress, and they are unable to advocate for or fight against federal policies. But at the same time, they are dealing with congressional and federal interference in their local priorities. Wyoming is a state with a population of 590,000 people, and Vermont has a population of less than 650,000 people, and both enjoy House and Senate representation. The 700,000 people in D.C. also deserve full representation in Congress. Again, we ask you to urge Senators Burr and Tillis to fight for the D.C. statehood and support Bill S-51.
And last, but certainly not least, is the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. This act would restore the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and complement the Freedom to Vote Act. It would ensure renewed oversight and accountability and justice in our democracy. Supreme Court rulings have twice reduced the authority of the Voting Rights Act. The John Lewis Act would restore that authority and ensure that every voter is treated fairly at the ballot box and has equal access to vote. The John Lewis Voting Rights Act would prevent discriminatory practices and rules from being implemented by the states. It would roll back those laws already passed in states since our last election and make it harder to register to vote and harder to vote. The act would protect access to the vote for all eligible voters, regardless of race, color, or language spoken, and would restore voters' ability to challenge discriminatory laws nationwide. And once again, Senators Burr and Tillis must know that we demand their support on this bill. We must also call on the Biden-Harris White House to lead this fight and protect our freedom to vote. The attacks on our freedom to vote must come to an end. Congressman John Lewis, who was almost beaten to death in his quest to protect the right to vote, wrote to us shortly before his death. He said, and I quote, "Democracy is not a state. It is an act, and each generation must do its part to build what we call the beloved community. Ordinary people with extraordinary vision can redeem the soul of America." Ordinary people with extraordinary vision can redeem the soul of America by getting in what I call good trouble, necessary trouble. Voting and participating in the democratic process are key. The vote is the most powerful, nonviolent change agent you have in a democratic society. You must use it because it is not guaranteed. You can lose it. We must make our voices be heard. Register to vote if you haven't already. Get educated on the issues and the candidates. Encourage others to get involved. And then vote like our democracy depends on it.
All right, we are family. Woo! So we've got a lot of work to do. And we said today that we came here, we have remembrance. We have remembered the ones who was killed or murdered at the Capitol on this day a year ago. So we come out and we got work to do. We are all family. And while you listen to this song, I would like for you all to get your phone out. Because you just heard the League of Women talk about what action we're going to be taking. So pull out your phone. You have a packet that has a phone number in there. We're going to light up Tilly's phone right now on this day. Let's get your phone out. Let's light up his phone. I would like you to dial the number. You got a packet? Get your phone out right now. We want Tilly to know that Moore County, we are live and we're ready to go. All right, the number. You ready? The number is 833-4-5. Y'all hear that beat? 2-5-1. Excuse me. 2-5-5-1. Are you ready? You gonna let them know who you are? You coming calling from North Carolina? And you gonna let them know that you are voting. You have voting status. Tell him, tell them, or whoever. Just you gonna holler it out. It might be noisy, but we're gonna do this. The number again: 833-3-4-5-2-5-5-1. Ask them to pass the Protecting Our Democracy Act. Because we know that there's still storm before them. And ask them also that we want them to stop the ongoing attack on our democracy since January the 6th. Go ahead on and tell them, you all. Tell them. Just tell them who you are. Coming from North Carolina. Burn it up today, y'all. January the 6th. All right. Thank you all so much for taking part. That's our action for today. Go home and pass that number out to everybody else and ask your brother, mama, your grandma, your sister, your brother, everybody in your family. Make that call. Thank you so much. That's our action of today. Before we leave, I would like to thank everybody for coming out. Ellie, did I leave anything out? We got a few announcements that we'd like for you all to listen to right now. All the announcements are in your packet. Come on, Ellie.
Yes, I'd like to bring to your attention an event sponsored by the Moore County NAACP and Brownson Presbyterian Church. Inside your packet, you will find information about an important upcoming 3-part community book read, an author presentation of Fragile Democracy, the struggle over race and voting rights in North Carolina. Books are available for purchase online and at the country bookstore. For those with a financial hardship, see me for a book. Thank you so much.
Also in your package you have the upcoming Martin Luther King weekend. So look over that very carefully and follow the schedule. Again, we would like to thank everyone for coming out. I'm going to have to give a little shout out to Bob Howell and his team. Everybody, Bob Howell, who helped coordinate this. All the other League of Women Voters. Our readers who did all the acting, and we had music. And I would like to thank our friends from Raleigh, Durham, Raleigh, Karen Ziegler, and Arena. Thank you all so much for the music. Thank you all so much for coming. We appreciate you all. Tina, the remembrance and the wonderful design that she do in remembering the people of today. And if I missed anyone, charge you So we thank you so much. If anyone would like to join in and join the NAACP, would like to get voters registration information, please join over here at the table. Pick up a packet if you have not done so. Remember though, you all, those 4 acts that needs to be voted upon out of the Senate is the John Lewis Act. Keep it moving.
Say it again.
I'm standing on shoulders of giants.
Give everybody a name.
I'm the conversationalist Avery. I run a small podcast over on the west side of Southern Pines, focused on people, progress, and politics. It's our honor.
Again, we'd like to thank all our partners.
Amen.
All our partners.
And
the DJ. Y'all give a hand for our DJ.
Thank you, Speedy.
Give a hand for our DJ. Jackie. She knows, we might have another Jackie out here, but Jackie Brown, she knows who she is.
That's my student.
Our camera.
Student from back in the day.
Be informed. This was live stream, so you'll have an opportunity to go back to it. Thank everybody.
Live stream on all of it. Amen. Linda.
The new project, the new rural project, Helen. Thank you.
Can we give a shout out to Olinda and thank Olinda for her leadership? Thank you, Olinda, from all of us in Moore County.
All right, everybody. As always, what do we usually say at the end of our event? Forward to
go. Amen. All right. It's y'all's favorite song.
Sunshine, she's here. You can take a break. Hot air balloon like a ghost space. With the air, like I don't know who's that favorite song. Because I'm happy. If you feel like 2022. Because I'm happy. Come along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Come along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Come along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Here come bad news, talking this and that. Hey, give me all you got, don't hold me back. Well, I should probably warn you, I'll be just fine. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why, because I'm happy. Come along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Come along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Come along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Come along if
Rose, Highland-Sharpe, Howell-TV. She back out of our man, so good. God bless you, Brother Rose. Tune in, pre-recorded, Rose Highland-Sharpe. YouTube, on my Facebook, share it. Do what you need to do. Keep hope alive. I love you. All right.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Town Talk. I'm Rose Highland-Sharpe, and as always, I hope you enjoy the show. And honey, remember, some way by God's grace and mercy, if you're walking the walk, you'll be on Town Talk. Take care. God bless. Town Talk airs daily at 11 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. and other times noted in the evening on WYBE TV Spectrum Cable 3, Southern Pines, North Carolina, and on Rose Highland-Sharpe YouTube 24 hours a day. It is a service to the community.